Welcome back to Podcast 129, and the boys are buzzing. We got our first conference preview of the year. My name is Hunter Waldrop. That is Jake Senchcomb, and there at the bottom is Mr. Tyler Vaughn. Fellas, how are we doing?
Good, man. Excited. Finally got all three of us together in one little space. Tyler, glad to have you here.
Yeah,
Excited.
glad to be here.
Yeah. By the time this one comes out, you guys would have seen our Vibes episode, just getting a soft preview of what we have to come this year. Today, we are doing the most WTF conference preview because nobody knows, and it is the Big 12. The Big 12 is the most exciting yet the most unpredictable conference in all of college football, I would say. You might not know every player's name or every head coach on the field, but when you turn on that television, you're watching some Big 12 football, you're 9 times out of 10, you're watching a one and a half possession game, and it's going to come down to the wire because these teams are all pretty leveled out. So I'm excited to dive into all of that today. But first, Jake is going to do his little stick here.
Yeah, so there are our socials. We're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, we are on Instagram. We talk about this in the Vibes episode a little bit, but once the season gets rolling, me and Hunter and Tyler, we're all busy and we get into our schedules. We're going to do our best to, one, keep these episodes consistent per week, going through like that week's games and then reviewing past week's games, but also keeping our socials up to date, especially Twitter and Instagram. Me and Hunter are really going to dive into that, and with how much time Tyler can fit into his schedule, maybe a TikTok here and there, that'd be cool. You never know what might happen on TikTok. Could hit it big, one of our takes might hit it big. So go follow us, give us some love. We appreciate all the guys tuning in and being loyal to us and just listen. We love it, and we love to hear your opinion. I love getting texts from my friends telling me how trash of takes I have. I love that. So keep it coming. We appreciate it. And with that, I think it's time for 2025 football season. The first and 10. It's back. All right.
Let's go. First and 10 is back.
First and 10. So for those of you who don't know what first and 10 is, we usually do it at the beginning of every show. And it's just a segment where it's kind of like an icebreaker to the show that we have for that day. Sometimes I make it for that day, like kind of themed with that day. Or sometimes I might say MJ or LeBron, just a little debate, maybe a little trivia to get the day going. Today I am going to stick to the Big 12 theme and just I'll start off. This is like no wrong or right answer. This is just us talking and get the conversation going about the Big 12. Going into this year, like Hunter just said, Big 12 is probably the most exciting conference going into this year, and we talked about it before the show started. Like was definitely the heart. Well, we haven't even previewed the other conferences, but there's no way I take as much time reviewing all these teams like with the SEC or Big Ten or even the ACC. Like this conference, you could tell me right now that at the end of this season that nine or 10 teams win the Big 12. I'm like, yeah, okay, I see it. So that's what makes it hard. And then going through schedules, like every single Big 12 football game is going to be just one possession game. I don't think there's going to be like a ton of blowouts. Just good football. We love it. And the Big 12 is just fun. Like, they're not going to win a national championship, but like, you can watch some damn good football on Saturday afternoon waiting on your team's game to start. So with that, my first and 10 question is going into this season, Big 12 conference, what are you most excited about? Very broad question. What are you most excited about to see in the Big 12 conference? You can say a player, you can say a coach, you can say something as a whole. Don't give away any of your hot takes yet because we have a little hot take segment coming at the end. I'll start us off. Take some time to think about it while I talk, but mine would be quarterback play. I think this conference is full of good and newcomer quarterbacks, just all across the board. Josh Hoover, is it Hoover or Hoover? How'd they say that?
Hoover, like Hoover, Alabama.
Hoover, Alabama. Josh Hoover. Sam Levitt, Devin Dampier. I don't know. How do we say this? This is good. All right. Let me go on a sidetrack here. I don't know how to pronounce any name. It has to be very straightforward for me to get it right. So everybody, for the next 4 episodes, you're going to hear me try to pronounce a lot of different names. And I'm going to have to ask Hunter and Tyler, how do we say this guy's name? Like Devin Dampier or Damper? Dampier?
Dampier.
Devin Dampier. Devin Dampier. That just sounds weird saying it. Avery Johnson is back. The Baylor quarterback Sawyer Robertson. Am I right? So we got new guys all across the board in the Big 12. That's what I'm excited about. Good quarterback play. And there, I just feel like there's a ton of them across the board. I know I'm probably forgetting several, but that's what I just have seen a lot of people talking about how like the Big 12 like reign of quarterbacks could be back, and I think that's a big possibility in this conference this year. So that's mine. Tyler, what do you got?
Come back to me because I had something going in my head and then I completely lost it.
All right.
I can feel the airspace here. Mine is who is going to be last year's Arizona State. I proudly came on here for my preseason bets and college football playoff win total predictions last year and said my favorite play on the board was Arizona State under 4.5 wins. I said it, and they went and won the Big 12. And
their win total was 4.5 last year.
4.5, 5.5. They were picked.
Wow.
There are 16 teams in the Big 12, and they were projected to finish 16th. And they won the Big 12, and they were that close to beating Texas last year. So, who is this year's Texas or Arizona State going to be? Because it's going to be somebody. Like this conference, I refuse to believe is going to go all chalk, and that is. We'll get to it later on, but that had a big play on who I chose to win and kind of went outside the box because I was like, this conference is not going all chalk. It's just not going to happen. So a few teams I'm looking at, like, my gosh, I remember Noah Fafita in 2022 or 2023. That guy was a stud. Like, does he did Brennan get him some help at Arizona? Like, do they come out of nowhere? I know the BYU, he got in trouble for something pretty. We're not going to get into why he got in trouble, but he got in trouble.
Quit it. It was false.
Yeah, no, but he still got in trouble by the university, that's the funny part. That is the funny part. They have Gary Bohannon over there, the former Baylor quarterback. That I trust Sasaki, the head coach at BYU. Like, do they somehow still get 9 wins this year? Are they still in it? Like, because their odds dropped through the wall. I can't believe I'm saying this. I don't think it'll be. I don't think it's going to happen. But like, you don't know what's going to happen in the Big 12. Does Dion pull another rabbit out of his hat this year? You don't know. Does Willie Fritz in Houston? That guy's had success everywhere he's been. He's been a program builder, whether it's Georgia Southern, shout out my Eagles, Tulane. He beat USC in the Cotton Bowl just 3 years ago. Does he get Connor Wegman back on the right track? Does Houston come around? Teams like that. And this is so cliche, but when Oklahoma State, Mike Gundy have no expectations, they always find a way to win 8, 9 games, sometimes 10. When they have no expectations, it's when that program is expected to win 9, 10 games that they just collapse. Sonny Dykes, TCU, I know people are sort of talking about them, so I won't include them in this, but like, it would be really funny if one of the 2 lost sons that returned home got their teams to the Big 12 championship game. And I'm referring to former and current UCF head coach Scott Frost. That would be hilarious. Or the lost savior of West Virginia football, Rich Rodriguez. If one of those 2 teams, they are picked 15th and 16th right now in the odds market on FanDuel. And I would say, you know what, you're stupid for picking one of those teams to win, but what the hell do I know? I'm the one that said Arizona State was going to win less than 5 games last year, and they ended up making and running the table. So I feel like just seeing what team will emerge that literally nobody's talking about that is on that back end. What team will it be? That's what I'm excited to see most. And Tyler, you got your
Yeah. Yeah, I've got it. So I know that Jake mentioned earlier that a lot of these games are going to be close, and that's when football, I think, is at its best. So I'm looking to see what defenses are going to step up. I think the offenses at the top of this conference are going to be very similar in the fact that they're going to put up enough points every week But I think this conference is going to come down to which defense can step it up the most. And I love defensive football. I think it's fun to watch. Obviously, you want to see the big plays, but when it's just smash mouth football and people are going at it, that's just fun. That's awesome. So I'm excited to see which defense steps it up this year in the Big 12. And I think that team that has the defense that can step up and perform week in and week out, that's going to be the team that wins the conference. So excited for that.
Yeah. I like both of those, especially it's just the theme I feel like we're talking about. It's just all new and unexpected. And I think that's what makes this conference so exciting is we know a lot about the SEC and what we're going to get, right? We know a lot about the Big 10, what we're going to get, even the ACC. Like the other three conferences, we kind of know what we're going to get from each team. This year in the Big 12, we have no clue. There's not a front runner. You could name 5 teams that could be the front runner. There's new faces everywhere, new coaches, quarterbacks, coordinators, all across the board. And that's kind of what makes the new age of college football so exciting is the transfer portal. All guys you got to go through each team to keep up. And it's hard to keep up with who's new where. So I think that's what's going to make this conference so exciting is just new stuff, new styles of football, new brands of football, new teams and faces playing each other. So good 1st and 10, guys. That's a good first one. I like that to kind of transition into our talk of the conference. So, Hunter, I'll let you take it away from here.
Oh yeah, guys, that was a great first and 10. I'm excited to see what Jake's got up his sleeve for more intriguing questions down the line as we go throughout the season. But man, it's that time. It is conference preview time, guys. We are about 1 month away from college football starting, so I couldn't think of a better time to get into our Power Four conference previews, and then we'll do one big win total college football playoff preview. And all right, let's waste no more time. Big 12 edition. So, like last year, we're going to do categories, and the first one up is the Pod 129 Big 12 Surprise Team. Okay. I see on here, respectfully to my 2 fellow co-hosts, colleagues, whatever you want to call them, that they chose their surprise team as the number 1 and number 2 team in the odds market to win the Big 12. So I'm going to let them go first. Tyler, I'll let you go first.
Well, unlike Hunter, I don't consistently check the odds market to see who is the number 1 and number 2 teams. But in my opinion, everybody's talking about Arizona State and how they're going to, if they can return. Everybody's talking about Texas Tech and how they've went out and spent a bunch of money in the portal, and they're trying to build that program around the rich oil money that's coming in. But what I think is that not enough people are talking about Kansas State. I think Kansas State has a very solid program. I know that Avery Johnson gets a lot of hate, for not being a all-around quarterback that everybody thinks that he's just a runner, really. But I think Kansas State has the potential to be very good in this conference. I know that they're, preseason, they're, like Hunter said, 1 or 2 in the odds market, but I think that they're not being talked about enough, and so that's why I put them as my surprise team, because I think people are just going to be shocked at just how good they are this year. And I'll tap into that just a little bit later, but I call my surprise team because I don't think people are speaking on them enough. So,
yes, Tyler, I was giving you a hard time, but no, you're right. Like that's the crazy part is that I think you are correct in the fact that everybody is hammering down on ASU and then Texas Tech and some of these other aspects of the conference. And nobody's paying attention to the fact that Chris Kleiman and Kansas State have the best odds to win the conference, but nobody's talking about them. So I was just giving you a hard time. Jake, tell me about the Utes. I know I got a little bit more on them later on in this show, but I'll let you start us off here.
Yeah, so first of all, let me get this out there on the surface, since you had your little remark there when you were shaming on me and Tyler. I think that the whole Big 12, any
The
team
hate is not needed.
I'm not hating. I'm just explaining.
It goes to you, bud.
You and Tyler up. I'm saying I think you could argue that you could put for surprise wild card tier 1, you could put any team in the Big 12, and there's an argument for it. So let me get that out there first, Hunter, before I go into this. All right. I have Utah as my surprise team. I did notice this when I put them in as my surprise team. I went and looked at the odds. I was shocked to see. I think Utah, Arizona State, and Kansas State are tied for first. Maybe like plus 500 to win the conference. Might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're all right there together. And I was surprised to see this, but it makes sense. I feel the same way kind of that Tyler does. Not a lot of people are talking about Utah because after everybody saw that Cam Rising's done, he retired, last year. Their whole team, they got screwed by injuries, and it started with Cam, and he was out for the rest of the year. He was there for 5-6 years, whatever. And they finished 5-7, and I think that's their first losing record under Whittingham since 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I think that like last year, their defense didn't miss a beat. Their Whittingham, his defenses are always in games. It's really just they couldn't move the ball last year. And starting at quarterback, like last year they had 6 different quarterbacks throw a pass. 6, right? And they were in a lot of games. They got blew out in some, but they were in a lot of games because of their defense. And now they went and got a total package from New Mexico. Devin Dampier, said it right, and Jason Beck, offensive coordinator from New Mexico. They were 4th last year in the nation in total offense. A terrible football team, but they could put up some points and move the ball. And I watched Dampier week 0. I think it was Montana State, maybe. I think it's Montana State. It was like the first game on. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Who the fuck is this guy? I was like, he just electric. He was like young Lamar Jackson, just like not a crazy thrower. Young Lamar Jackson kind of crazy, but the same style of football, like very shifty, turns nothing into something, whether getting out of the pocket and making a throw or just getting downfield. He's that kind of guy that like is going to throw for 200 to 225 yards, throw it like 20 to 25 times a game, and rush for 50 to 75. And I think that's the exact kind of quarterback that Utah needs. A lot of new pieces coming in at receiver and running back. Like I don't even know who their running back is. But I think a lot of it with Beck coming in and Dampier, like they have a year under their belt together and having that like high productive offense. They bring that in. Whittingham can focus on the defense. Those guys focus on the offense and keep Dampier healthy. All they got to do is score 20 points a game, and I think they're going to be in every single game they have. I mean, every single game they play. On defense, like a lot of people are coming back. And last year, like I think this year they get back to that smash mouth football. Not going to get beat at home. That's what I got on them. And as far as surprise, I just don't think they're really being like you turn on Sports Center or any college football coverage network. I don't think Devin Dampier and Jason Beck are being talked about. That's why I'm as my surprise team. I have them going 9-3. I went through their schedule. I don't know if we're going through schedules, but I'll run through some of theirs. Like I have a few key games for each team. And mine, they're really the first 9 games of their schedule, pretty easy. But the back half, the last 3 games, they go to Baylor, and then they got Kansas State at home, and then at Kansas to end the season. I think those 3 games without a bye week, the bye week is before the Baylor game, are going to be huge for them. That's really down like we saw it last year with the BIG12. Those last 3 to 4 games down the stretch were huge for everybody in the conference, and it's where your season makes or breaks you. So I have them going 9-3, which their win total, I believe, is 7.5. I already have a wager on that. So Utah is my surprise team.
I like it, Jake, and I'll get more and piggyback off you later on this show because I got a lot to say about them as well. I rolled with the TCU Horned Frogs on this one. Hey, guys, who has more playoff wins, Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly combined or Sonny Dykes?
Sonny Dykes.
Sonny Dykes.
Correct. Yeah, and this team still went 9-4 last year. I think that speaks a lot to like they just kind of got written off, and with all due respect, they kind of deserved it after that showing that they had in the national championship game against Georgia. But they came out last year 9-4, and they
Quiet
found
9-4.
Do what? Quiet. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Nobody really talked about them. I don't remember hearing a
Yeah.
lot about them. But they found a guy in Josh Hoover. I think he's a solid quarterback. I'm not saying he's the best one in the conference, and I know Jake has got some more stats, and he's got some Josh Hoover talk later on. So I'm not going to deep dive into it. but nobody's talking about the Horned Frogs. I feel like Arizona State has taken a lot of that spotlight. In all due respect, they've deserved it. I'm not trying to trash Arizona State or anything, but they've deserved it. There's been some other storylines, but I also really like TCU's schedule this year. Week 1, they play at North Carolina, which God knows how that's going to look, but I'm going to roll with TCU on that just based off of just because of all the unknowns going on at UNC. And then they have an early bye week, which I don't like, but then they don't when they start conference play when it really matters. They got to start at Arizona State. I do have them taking a loss there. And then they get like Colorado, and then they have this 3-game stretch where I think they drop one, and it's at Kansas State, Baylor, at West Virginia. I don't think they might lose 2, but I think they might lose 1 or 2 in that range of games, and they hit a bye week. They get Iowa State at home. I don't think BYU is going to be as good, but playing in Provo, not easy, back-to-back road spots. But those are both winnable games. And then I think Cincinnati, I don't think Scott Satterfield will be coaching by that time of the year. So the thing is, I'm looking at they could win this one. It's like, oh gosh, they could win these games too. And it's like, wow, they're going to be another quiet 9-3, 8-4 type of team. And then if the ball bounces their way a few times, they could be 10-2. But if the ball bounces their way a few times, it could also maybe be 7-5. So we'll see. But I think Josh Hoover, they got a lot of production coming back on defense. I've never really worried about skill position players at TCU. I feel like they always just have some sneaky wideout that's really good and 2 solid backs. And I believe in Sonny Dykes, man. He has proven to be a good football coach, and he has done a good job of replacing Gary Patterson after the legacy that he left at TCU. So that's who I rode with for my surprise team this year.
I like it. I have a good bit on them too in the wild card, and I like a lot of points you were talking about, especially with their schedule. The same games you highlighted, Kansas State, Baylor, and West Virginia, I did the same except highlighted the 2 above, Arizona State and Colorado. That 5-game stretch, you go at Arizona State, defending Big 12 champ. Then you got Colorado at home. I think that's a sneaky game because you got to turn around the next week and go to Kansas State, who's at the top of the Big 12. Then Baylor at home, and then at West Virginia. That's a tough stretch. On top of you got the early bye and at the heels week 1 against Belichick. Let's just go ahead and get that shit out of the way. Let's put Belichick in the dirt immediately. Or the rise of Belichick. Week 0. I love it. Is it week 0? Pretty sure, right? Because they get week 1 off?
It's week 1.
Oh, I thought that they were playing week 0.
Oh, actually, hang on. No.
Because that's weird that why would they get week 2 off? Because I thought usually when you
they just have a really early bye. They play week 1.
Okay. Well, still, I'm excited for that game. I have them winning that. I don't remember what you said, Hunter.
I said I was going with the Frogs just based off of all the unknowns at UNC. I would trust Sonny Dykes right now with an established roster rather than Bill Belichick with a bunch of I don't knows.
Yep. So, yeah, good stuff. I like that, Hunter.
Yeah, man. I know.
Can we get a record from you? Do you have that projected TCU record?
I don't. So the way I did it this year, guys, some teams have a straight up this is their record, but for some of these other teams, especially in the Big 12, this is mainly a Big 12 thing. It's also a thing in some other conferences, but mainly the Big 12, where I'm like, there's just the gap is so small between, and the margins are so small that I didn't pinpoint a record. I just kind of threw a ceiling and a floor out there. But before week 1, I'm sure I'll have records for a record for everybody here. But let's see here. I got a win there, a loss in there, probably 2, 3, 4. I got them going 8-4 again. I could see, but I think even if they go 7-5 with that schedule, that's a good year. I really do believe that, because even in their non-con, who's to say it doesn't click with Bill Belichick? Then you got to play the ACC runner-up playoff SMU Mustangs, but I have them winning that game because it's at home. That's a huge, and that's the one game that TCU cares about. It's a battle for Fort Worth, the 2 private school rich people out there battling it out. I do have that, but first Big 12 game on the road in Tempe. That's not that. I don't like that. I do think they'll get Colorado, and then I have them losing one of those, but probably two of those in that last 3 game stretch at Kansas State, Baylor, at West Virginia. But I think after that bye week, they get Iowa State at home, which I like. They'll drop one of those back-to-back road games and then finish off the year. I think they beat Cincinnati. So I got 8-4.
Good stuff.
Yes, sir. All right, moving on. I believe it's the wild card teams we have here and our players. And you might be wondering why the hell do I have a bulldozer sitting right there? And I'll get into that in a second. Tyler, let me hear about the Iowa State Cyclones.
Yeah, so I think Iowa State is one of those teams where they are quite literally a wild card. They could go, anywhere from they could go 7-5, and they could run the table, and they could go 11-1. I mean, you never know with this team, especially when they lost so much production at wide receiver, and so that's why I also have my wild card player as Rocco Beck, because there's no telling what their offense is going to look like. They were very productive last year. I think they averaged about 30 points per game. But that's just it's so up in the air right now. I mean, it really is. Rocco Beck last year threw for 3,500 yards. He was pretty efficient, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. It's not terrible. So I think that if their receiver core can step up for them, they could be a very good team. Looking in their schedule, I don't think they beat Kansas State and Ireland. But after that, I mean, the next closest game that I think they'll have to really work for is BYU, but it is in Ames, and it's their homecoming. But I think they can win that. It's a little bit of a coin flip. The Arizona State game, again, I think is going to be a coin flip. I think they probably do lose that one. TCU, probably another coin flip. And you never know what's going to happen from Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State, like we kind of touched on earlier. So this team, I think, can get their year can go either way. It really depends on how they're. I think it's really riding on their receiving core and on if their offense can be as productive as they were last year. So we shall see. But I think that this team, again, it could be really good. They could be very good and make another Big 12 title game appearance, or they could be really bad.
I like it, man. Yeah, Big 12 championship appearance last year. Matt Campbell, always just a well-known name, highly talked about name in the coaching market. I feel like for the longest time there, it's kind of died down nowadays, but like back in the mid 2010s, late 2010s, when they were killing it with Brock Purdy and Brees Hall, like any significant job opening, it was like Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell's going to take it. He's never left. He's stuck loyal to the middle of Iowa. Shout out Iowa State. I just won a national championship with them in NCAA 26 and Dynasty, so they have a special place in my heart now. Rocco Becht returning Pop-Tart Bowl MVP, which I think arguably is a cooler award to win than the Heisman Trophy, if you ask me. How many Pop-Tart Bowl MVPs does Travis Hunter have? 0. So how many Pop-Tarts did he get to eat after the game? No, I'm just kidding. I do like Iowa State, and I think they are a wild card team, but you really could throw any team at this slot, but I really like all the points that you hit on, Tyler. All right, I'll go next, and I'll let Jake finish us off with the TCU Horned Frogs. So my wild card team is the Texas Tech Red Raiders, and the reason I chose them as a wild card is because everybody's talking about them. I didn't put them as like under tier 1. I didn't put them under disappointment, anything like that. I simply just put them in the wild card because it's either going to work or it's not. That's what I got to, is that it's either going to work or it's not. Now, this is the schedule to have if it's going to work. I will give them that there. I'll go over this real fast. They got, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, and Oregon State. And Oregon State's at home. Those should be an easy 3-0 start. They should have their confidence built up. Then they go to Rice Eccles, and I think Kyle Whittingham's going to punch them in the mouth. I think they drop it that game at Utah. At Houston off the bye, I think they get the win, even though I think Houston is going to be a team that gets better as the year goes on. I'm telling you guys, Willie Fritz is going to be a good coach. You might not see it this year, but I think he really is going to build a program at Houston just based off his track record. And I think as the season goes along, they're going to be right there looking for a bowl game because they haven't, and that's saying a lot because the past few years Houston hasn't been able to do that. But we're not talking about Houston. They got Kansas at home. If this game was at Kansas, I'd have them dropping it since it's at home after a big win at Houston. Got them winning that game. They're dropping in Tempe to Dillingham at home against Oklahoma State. I have this one in the yellow because I just really have no idea about Oklahoma State, like I said. And who has the coaching advantage? Is it Joey McGuire's or Mike Gundy? Legacy Mike Gundy, but recency Joey McGuire? I don't know. Coin flip. Either way, I don't have them going into Manhattan, Kansas, and beating Avery Johnson in Kansas State. They're going to drop that one. So that's 3 already. But then they get BYU and UCF at home, and then they get a bye week before they have to go on the road to West Virginia. If they didn't have that bye week in between, I'd actually probably have them losing in Morgantown to finish the year. But I do have them rattling off 3 wins in a row. However, they could lose to BYU at home. Very possible. So by rule, I technically have them going 9-3, but I'll be damned if I'm going to pick them to make the Big 12 championship game. I realistically, when I first looked at it, it's 9-3. I think it's probably closer to 8-4, maybe. Yeah, probably 8-4. 8-4 and 7-5 is more likely than 9-3 in my eyes. But I think they do finish between 8 and 9 wins. I mean, their over under is 8.5, and the over is juiced at -150. So Vegas thinks they're going to win 9 games this year, which they're buying in. And now to get to my point, and this is what it will take it from 7-5 to 9-3. That bulldozer representing the lines of scrimmage. Texas Tech has never had a problem with producing great offense. I don't care who the head coach was. Mike Leach, Cliff Kingsbury, Joey McGuire. I don't care who it's been. These guys can throw, they can sling the rock, and then every 3 or 4 years, they even have a running back that can take you up the middle too. What they've never had is a consistent offensive line to protect that quarterback for 12 games in a year. But more importantly than the offensive line, they've never had a defensive line that can put pressure on a quarterback to cause opposing offenses to struggle, to give their offenses more opportunities to hold a lead instead of playing catch up or instead of having to try and extend games after being tied every other possession. That's not a fun game to play. They went out, they spent money, they've got a really good talent composite. And on paper, I think they might be the, on paper, best team in the Big 12. Shout out to Tyler's hot take as a foreshadow later on. But I don't know. I don't know. I have to see it. We have seen so many teams in college football these past 3 seasons go out and buy a team. It worked last year with Ohio State, but there's also been plenty of instances where it didn't work. Like a team with a lot of transfers. I'm probably going to need some y'all's help. I'm kind of blanking out here, but like it worked with Colorado last year, but how about the Colorado 2 years ago? What about that Oregon team? Yeah, they won a bunch of games, but did they really achieve their goal that last year of the 4-team playoff? There've been other examples where teams have brought in so many transfers through the port. Florida State last year, they had a complete roster overload, and we saw how that turned out, 2-10. But we also saw how it worked out when they had a complete roster overload the year before that. And they won the ACC championship. So that's why I think it really is a wild card. I do believe in Joey McGuire. I like the coaching staff. And on paper, I have them with the best record and the best team. But I got to see it to believe it first. So that's why you will see later on I don't have them involved in my championship game and player of the year. I need to see it first. And I'm not going to say I'm not a believer, but I'm also not unloading my pockets of stock into Texas Tech. That's probably the best way I know how to put it. Just sitting there right in the middle. Like, I'm excited to watch them play, but I just don't know if I can buy all my stock in them right now. But yeah, that's why I got Texas Tech as my wild card team, and now I'm gonna pass it on to Jake, and he's gonna talk a little bit more about Josh Hoover and the TCU Horned Frogs.
Yeah, so I have TCU as my wild card team. I know Hunter really dove into them a few minutes ago, so I'll try to keep this shorter. But I think TCU, the reason I have them as my wild card is very high ceiling, like could win 10 games or also could only win 5 or 6 games. And I think that's just because of their schedule, like how we were talking about the road, like they have very hard road games. You got at UNC, at Arizona State, at Kansas State, at West Virginia, always a tough place to play, regardless of how good they are. At BYU and at Houston back to back to close out the year before they have Cincinnati at home. So very high ceiling, low floor. But the thing I like about this team, I like when teams are experienced and have an established coach, which they have that with Sonny Dykes. We've seen it, and an established quarterback. Josh Hoover threw for almost 4,000 yards last year. Crazy. I did not know that. Like, that's a big deal. He almost threw for 4,000 yards. And I went back and looked at Max Duggan's stats from his last year at TCU. I think he only threw for like 3,600 and some change. So that's just a big stat I look at. And like you said, receiver, I feel like TCU, they always have established receivers, just skill players that we don't know about. And then all of a sudden they have 1,000-yard receiver that we learn about. And last year, Jack Beck, I believe he went to the Raiders. And they bringing back Eric McAllister. And he was kind of their number 3 last year. And in the bowl game, he was their number 1, and he had 8 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. So big receiver 1 already established, quarterback already established, Sonny Dykes already established. Defense, this is the second year under Andy Avalos. In 2024, gave up under 13 points in 4 of their last 7 games, and they're bringing back 6 of their starters on defense. So, like I said, very established squad, and I really like that. I'm very high on them. Hoover, I keep saying Hoover. Josh Hoover, one of his problems last year was turnovers. He had 11 picks, a few that really cost him in a few games. I think if he can pass the same way, he has a really pretty ball. Just cut down on key turnovers because you're going to be in close games. It's the Big 12. I think he's a dark horse for player of the year in the conference, not the Heisman. Y'all thought I was going to say Heisman, didn't you? Player of the year in the conference. Very good quarterback. So that's why I have him as my wild card. I have them going 9-3 with losses at Arizona State. I think they drop the one at home against Baylor and then at Houston. I think they get Kansas State on the road. So that is my wild card team. They're kind of my hot take team with them going on the road and beating Kansas State, but I got them going 9-3, and I like what they got going on with Josh Hoover a lot. I really like him, and Sonny Dykes. He's a good coach, and they're like last year they went 9-4 very quietly. Nobody's talking about that. So win totals at 6.5. Take that as you will. 6.5. I said
Yeah,
that.
but the odds are like minus 180. I'm not.
I don't know.
Don't give that out.
I took it. It wasn't quite 180 though. I think I got it like 165.
Oof, laying some juice on it. Me and you aren't that far off because I said 8-4 is more likely in my book. I could see 7-5. I could also see 9-3 and a sneaky 10-2 somehow, just like Arizona State was last year. Or I guess they were 9-3, but just so many different variables. It's a good wild card team. I think everybody had a great wild card team. But all right, disappointing team. And we see 2 repeats on here. That's fine from the wild card team. But that's what makes it a wild card team, right? We're not saying that they're going to be star stellar. They have the potential to be, but they also could be potential to fall off a little bit and not live up to expectations. But these are teams that we say will not live up to their expectations, at least as far as the conference goes. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm looking at a conference preview, I focus a lot more on the actual 9 game schedule than I do some of the non-con, because a team could go 0-4 non-con, go 8-0, 9-0 in conference play, and it doesn't really matter at that point. I don't know, or I don't believe so, I should say. So I'll go first. Mine's a little bit of a cop-out reason why, but disappointing team. I rolled with Iowa State. I liked everything Tyler had to say about them, and I think that there is a world where they can redo what they did last year, win 9 games, and be right there in it to play for the Big 12. Like, there's not a team well, there are very few teams in this conference I would say have no chance of making it, and this is definitely not one of them. But going 9-3, losing two 1,000 yard receivers to the second round of the NFL draft, that's just such hard production to replace. They don't have another Brees Hall, but they do have Rocco Becht, and they do have Matt Campbell. If I know anything about Iowa State, their defense is at least going to be solid. Not saying they're going to be top tier. They're definitely not going to be bad, but they'll be solid. But just to remake that season that they had last year, being right there in it at the end, I don't see it. I see a bare minimum of 4 losses on the schedule, at least for conference play. They could also lose to Iowa. We'll see. That's just a rivalry game you really have no idea about. But I think they lose the Potato Farm game in Ireland in week 0 to Kansas State, just on a neutral field. I'm going to take Chris Kleiman and Avery Johnson over an unproven and new Iowa State team. I'm going to take the team with more returning production. They'll get South Dakota. Iowa flip a coin. God knows what that game is going to be. Iowa State won on a last-second field goal last year. They'll beat Arkansas State. They get a bye. They got Arizona and Cincinnati. I think those are two good games to start off with for conference play. I think they'll get both of those. But right after they go on the road to Cincinnati, they have to hit the road to Colorado. I don't care who you are, what conference you play in, back-to-back road games are always tough. And so I do think they'll at least drop one of those two games. I just have it being Colorado in Boulder. Then they get a much-needed bye week after back-to-back road spots. They get BYU at home, which I think is a win. I think they will drop one of the two Arizona State game at home or at TCU. They could drop both realistically, but for the sake of this exercise, I'll say one or two. I'm not going to pinpoint which one or how many. And then they get a bye week. And same thing, I think they will lose one or two of the Kansas or at Oklahoma State game, but they could beat Kansas at home. Playing at Ames is it's actually a little underrated from these quote unquote sources of the media. And then on the road at Oklahoma State, just who knows? If Mike Gundy's coaching the game, there's a good chance that they'll be. But there's also a good chance Mike Gundy could be canned by this time. So only the Lord knows. I think 8-4, 7-5. I could see a world where they go 6-6. I just don't see them living up to the Big 12 championship game again. So that's why I decided to go with them for most disappointing.
I like it. Good stuff, huh?
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Texas Tech. I have them as my disappointing team. I know Hunter talked about them, and had him as his wild card team. Like I said when I was talking about TCU, when I look at teams, I like establishment, and I don't think they have too much establishment. Joey McGuire, great coach. Baron Morton. The thing about him that I'm not set on him yet, because last year you look at Texas Tech, their guy, who they leaned on offense, Taj Brooks, who I believe is now a Cincinnati Bengal, rushed for over 1,000 yards, had a 1,000-yard season. They leaned on him, and I went back. I've been at work. I've been watching quarterback highlights leading up to this episode of each teams that I was going to be talking about, and a lot of Baron Morton's stuff is off of play action. Guys running wide open off pop passes, which is great. That's good. And that's props to his offensive coordinator and McGuire for dialing those. Go ahead.
I'm glad to see you're real productive at work. I can't wait for your boss to watch this. Know that you're watching quarterback.
It's during lunch. It's during my lunch breaks. I just put it in the iPods, YouTube.
Do you not believe in Quentin Joyner? He was
he went to Texas Tech.
He played at USC last year. He and Woody Marks were 1 and 2. I'm just curious, and we just haven't had a lot of actual discussion.
Do I think that he's going to be Taj Brooks? No, I don't, and I think that's what they leaned on. So I don't. I think there's a lot. I think he's going to have to take a bigger step up as a quarterback, and it might not. It's going to be more developmental stuff, I guess, where it's really on your shoulders. It's not going to be play action where guys are running wide open. That's my point. Now, I kind of said the same thing in the Vibes episode, I think, about Arizona State, how Sam Leavitt is losing Scatabo, but I also think like he's just a great quarterback. The eye test, like you can see it from my perspective. Like eye test, I think Sam Levin's a better quarterback, and he's got a number one stud receiver that we've seen in action, Jordan Tyson. So it's kind of the same thing, except I think Texas Tech, it's all new. They're trying to buy everything. I'm not a big believer in that. I don't think it's necessarily going to work, and I think it'll be next year, the year after, when they get some of these like commits that they've been getting, NIL guys, the $5 million offensive tackle in there, when it really starts to work. So I have them going 7-5, and I like the point you brought up, Hunter, about how when you're doing conference previews, you look more of at the 8 to 9 game schedule than the non-con, because you can go 3-0 or 4-0 in non-con, or vice versa. That's the same thing I have with Texas Tech. Like Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, Oregon State, all at home to start out the year. I think they should win those and be 3-0. And we're going to be talking about top 25 conversation and all this just because they beat the doors off of two nobodies in the beginning and then beat Oregon State. And then they go to Utah week 4, and I think they get the doors blown off of them. Like a Kyle Whittingham style game, 24-3, something like that. And it's over at the end of the first quarter. I just think that they're going to smother them. So I got them going 7-5. I don't know if I guess you could argue that's not disappointing, but like Hunter said, it's juiced to the over at 8.5 wins, and everybody's talking about Texas Tech right now. I'm not a big believer in it. So yeah, I got them. That's them as I have Texas Tech as my disappointing team.
I like it, man. Just because we've kind of just been making points and going on, I would like to open up some conversation. So if anybody has points, whenever somebody's done speaking, feel free to talk. But Jake, I mean, another reason I had them as my wild card team that I kind of just left out, Morton, his injuries, I should say. He hasn't, I don't know if he's even played a full season. If he has, like, it's only been once. I don't think he did a lot in spring because he was injured. So losing your starting quarterback is everything too. And especially when you're playing around this guy, but like they got Micah Hudson back. They got the talent. Is it going to work? That's the big question. So, Tyler, talk about Coach Prime for me, boy.
Yeah, really chalky answer here, but everybody expects for Coach Prime to have a good football team. He's going to talk like he has a good football team. He's going to appear like that. But when you lose the Heisman winner, when you lose, as much hate as he gets, Shadur Sanders, when you lose LeJontay Wester, when you lose as much production as Colorado has lost in the past year, that's not a recipe for success. So I think no matter what, everybody's going to expect Deion to have a team that's going to be in the top 10 just because of who Deion is, and I think that's what he expects from his team. But when you lose the production that you had last year, and even with that production that you had, you weren't that good, you're definitely going to fall off. And I don't see Colorado winning more than 4 games. I just don't. I don't think that they're set up for it. I not very high in Colorado. What is their win total? I don't even know.
6.5. The under is juiced to -200. So they are expecting a 6-6, 5-7 season out of them.
Yeah, that's what I think, that they are a 4-8, 5-7 team, and that's disappointing in the eyes of the world with prime time as your coach. So that's why I have them as my disappointing team. I don't think anybody really expects them to be that great. So I guess you could say they're not disappointing. They're just going to meet their expectation. But and with Deion Sanders as a coach, that's definitely disappointing. So.
Tyler, I like what you just said there about how they might be reaching expectations, but like the way that I do mine is really based off the season prior. So like Iowa State's win total 7.5, and I'm like, well, they still can go 8-4. I think 7-5 is more likely, but 8-4 technically is right around their expectations, but that's not close to what they achieved last year.
Right, exactly.
Big 12 championship. I don't think we talk about Colorado the rest of the episode, so I am going to run through my thoughts on them. And Jake, if you'd like to come in at the end, and feel free to do so. I do like Caden Salter. I think at Liberty, he was a really good quarterback, best G5 quarterback, especially not last year, but 2 years ago when they won the Conference USA. beat Diego Pavia, New Mexico. Actually, a really fun conference championship game to go back and watch. But like you said, man, you're losing Wester, you're losing Hunter, you're losing Sanders. And on top of all that, yes, the offensive line got better last year, but how consistent are they going to be through 12 games? On top of last year, their game plan was three-step drop. We're throwing the ball 50 times a game. Like that's how it is. We are getting Shadur, we're getting Travis theirs, and it worked. I mean, they won what 8 games? They went 8-4 last year, right? So that say that's still really good considering that 2 years ago they went 2-10. Not trying to diss on what Coach Prime has done there, but this year, I do expect a step back. And yes, it will be Caden Salter. It won't be Julian Lewis. There's just no way. I'm sorry. The kid's just not ready yet, at least from what I've seen watching Georgia high school football. Not saying that he's not going to be great. I think he has all the potential in the world, but like to start over Caden Salter is just outlandish in my eyes. I'll go through their schedule real fast. Oh, go ahead, Tyler.
Especially when you think about it, he reclassed a year, so like he's supposed to be a senior in high school this coming year. I 100% agree with what you said. He is not going to be ready to play college football yet at all.
And you know what? I think it's actually good that he's going to sit behind a veteran fifth-year guy that has a similar play style to him. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Week one on a Thursday night, Friday night. This is before the Saturday. This is a weekday game. They host Georgia Tech. I do think the Yellow Jackets get it done, and we'll talk more about them in the ACC preview. But I think Jake and I both have strong opinions on the Yellow Jackets entering 2025. I do think Tech gets it done, but I don't think this is a blowout game. I think this is like a get to know your team a little bit type of game, but I do think the Yellow Jackets go in there and get it done. They should beat Delaware at home, the newest team to the FBS. Then they hit the road to Houston, and I said Houston's going to get better as the year goes along. So if this game was at the end, I'd feel a lot more, tempted to pick Houston. I have it marked here in the yellow as a coin flip game, so lean either way you want on that. They should beat Wyoming. I think they'll lose to BYU, but I also have it in the yellow because I don't know what to expect out of BYU after losing their quarterback this late to the game. I really have no idea. Coaching advantage, I go BYU right now, but it is on the road. I don't know. So I have that one in the yellow as well. I think they lose their next two at TCU, or they lose at TCU, but like I said earlier, sorry. I think they get Iowa State. I do think they get Iowa State just based off where it is in Iowa State schedule, based off where it is in Colorado's schedule. That's really all it is to me. Then they hit a bye week. They are going to get run out the building at Utah. There's just no other way to say it. That's a loss. Arizona, I think they'll get the win. I do have faith by that point in the year that the defense will be a little bit more established. But they have no run game. Did I already say that? Did I already bring up their run game? I don't know if I have. Yeah, Colorado doesn't run the ball. So that is one concern to see how that works out in their favor this year. At West Virginia, I think they lose this one. I think by this point in the year, Rich Rod's going to have his guys. I know they're not predicted to do very well. Their win totals at 5.5, 4.5. Yeah, they're projected to be pretty bad. But going on the road to Morgantown cross country, I'll take Rich Rod over Coach Prime this part of the year. They hit a bye week. They get Arizona State at home, and the model the model pointed this one out in yellow. I think it's home field advantage off a bye week, and whereas Arizona State plays 3 consecutive games in a row before going on the road. So we'll see. I don't know. I will give it to Arizona State, though. I'm not going to go on here and pick Colorado to win. And then they're going to lose at Kansas State to finish the year. So what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think 6-6, 5-7, and then there is a world where they go 4-8, like Tyler said. It's not outlandish to say. So those are my brief thoughts on Colorado.
I like that, Hunter. Good point. So I don't have a lot on Colorado. Kind of tired of talking about them, to be honest, after the past 2 years of what we've had shoved down our faces every week in and week out. But it is kind of sad that Shadur and Travis Hunter are gone. Like, that kind of takes away the excitement for me, at least a little bit, from them. But Coach Prime's still there. Talking about Caden Salter and your point on the run game, Hunter, like, I'm interested to see, is Prime going to try to stick to the same style of offense with him and throw the ball 40, 50 times a game? Or is he going to take a step back and try to take the game out of his hands a little bit more? I don't know. And if the bottom line with this team, and it's been this way since Coach Prime stepped in as head coach, you gotta play better defense. Bottom line, like not terribly worried about the offense, especially. I think Caden Salter was like that's a great guy to go get after having Shador. Like that's a perfect pickup in my eyes for them. So yeah, like defense is the biggest question mark for me around that team. So that's all I got on Colorado.
All right, man. All right, so now we're gonna hit on the heavy hitters here. No pun intended. These are who we put down as our tier one teams. I feel like sometimes last year when we did these previews, we talked a lot about like teams to look out for. Then we just got to the end. It's like, oh yeah, well we're picking these two teams to make the championship, and that was kind of it. So we wanted to make sure that we got everybody's attention here. And some of these teams we've already talked about, so it's not like we're going to deep dive back into them. I see that we all have Arizona State and Kansas State on here. Me and Tyler have a few extra ones, so we can talk more about them. I'm going to wait and hold off on Utah because I got more to say on them as this goes along, but I'll hit on Baylor. And Tyler, if you want to hit on Texas Tech, and then we'll let Jake take it away from there. So Baylor. The Baylor Bears last year, they got better as the year got along. They kind of struggled there at first, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, is Dave Aranda going to lose his job? Like, he definitely was on the hot seat, and I wouldn't necessarily say that it's fully cooled off. I'd say it's there's still a temperature there, but the way that he finished the year last year helped him out. I do like the Bears this year, though. I think that Sawyer Robertson has all the potential in the world. I mean, the guy threw for 3,000 yards, 28 tutties, and only 8 picks. I only see that improving into this upcoming year. So we'll see how it all pans out, but I do like the Bears, and I know for a fact that their defense is going to be good. Like, Dave Aranda just doesn't trot out bad defenses. I don't believe that there's going to be any regression there. They did bring in a few playmakers. Like, they got a receiver from Alabama on the outside now. They got 2 solid running backs. But I do believe in Sawyer Robertson. And I went back and forth on who to put for my wild card team and player, and they were up there. But then I really got to thinking about it. I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to believe in them. They're going to win. They're going to be there at the end of the conversation. And that could just be 8 wins. 8 wins could just put them in the conversation, but we're going to find out a lot about the Baylor Bears in week 1 when they host the Auburn Tigers. That is such a big game for both conferences and their representatives. It's not even funny, with Greg Sankey talking about, oh, well, we deserve an automatic 5 teams, and the Big 12's like, well, you need to play a 9-game conference schedule. It's just like everything that's going on with the 2 totally different ideologies. That's such a big game for Baylor and for Auburn in week 1. So I'm very interested to see that. But I believe in Sawyer Robertson. I think Dave Aranda, I mean, the guy won the Big 12 in his first year as a head coach. So he's played in big games, or he's coached in big games, I should say, rather. And I think they have all the potential in the world. And I do think they're at the end, they will be right there in the mix for a Big 12 championship bid. And then if you make the Big 12 championship game, you're 1 game away, man. 1 game away. You never know. So that's what I have to say on Baylor. I'll get more into Utah. I know Jake's already hit on them, so I don't want to keep being repetitive. We all got Arizona State and Kansas State, so I'm going to let Tyler talk about Texas Tech, and then I'll let Jake take it away with the Cats and the Sun Devils, and then Tyler and I can piggyback off what he has to say. So, Tyler, what are your thoughts and why you believe so strongly that Texas Tech is tier 1?
I would say that I think that Texas Tech is going to be tier 1 just simply because they do have a very good roster, and a little foreshadow. We'll get into what I think about rosters on paper a little later on. But like I said, they have a very good team on paper. They're going to be solid, and like we've talked about all episode, this conference is so crazy that I put down the 3 teams that should be the tier 1 teams, in my opinion, at least. So I'm not gonna dive too deep past what I've already said, just because Texas Tech's been covered a little bit in this episode. But I just think they're supposed to be good on paper, and with this conference looking the way it is, and so it's so unpredictable that I wanted to throw them in the tier one just because they have the looks to be one of those teams that are in the tier one and one of the better teams in the conference. So
Yeah, I like that, Tyler. I'm going to be honest. I also technically, I guess, because I said I think they have the best roster on paper, and on paper I have them going 9-3. But like I said earlier, the only reason I don't have them on here is I just got to see it first. Like at least I can say Arizona State's won a Big 12 championship. Baylor's won a Big 12 championship. Kansas State has won a Big 12 championship all within the past 4 years. And then Utah won back to back Pac 12 championships, came in and came dang close to winning the Big 12 their first year in the conference. So that's why I like to have a little bit more establishment. But on paper, I like what you had to say. And Jake, I'll let you hit on the two heavy hitters that everybody's got on here, and that we'll piggyback off you after that.
Yeah. Before I do, I want to kind of piggyback off what you were talking about with Baylor. I went back and forth with putting them on wild card or surprise. I think Baylor is going to be one of those teams that plays spoiler this year. And a big part of that is they get Arizona State and Kansas State and Auburn at home. And the big thing with Auburn is that it's week one, and all the points you're making about with SEC versus Big 12, week one, big deal. But then Arizona State and Kansas State, like, we have them as tier one. I believe a bunch of people that watch the sport believe that Arizona and Kansas State are at the top of the Big 12. So the fact that they get them at home, and Arizona State, they get Samford the week before, and then they play Arizona State at home. And then for Kansas State, they play, where's it at? Or not, my bad, Utah, not Kansas State. They play Arizona State and Utah. They have a bye week before the Utah game at home late in the season. So I think they're going to play spoiler this year. So I like what you're doing.
But yeah, Jake, I like everything you just said. And to piggyback off that, and I didn't really go into the Baylor schedule. I guess now is a good time to do so. But so like last year, this is last year's schedule. They lost at Utah by one possession or two possessions. They lost by 11 points. And then, man, who remembers that Colorado game? The Hail Mary at the end and then the 2-point conversion. Like they lost that game by one possession by a Hail Mary. They lost at BYU, or no, this was at home. They lost by one possession, 6 points. They got their doors blown off at Ames. But then after that, they rattled off 6 straight wins. They did lose to LSU in the bowl game, but like who was playing, who wasn't, won't care. That game had no significance to me, but like they rattled off 6 straight wins, and then 3 of those games they lost by one possession. So they could have very easily gone 9-3 last year. This year, let's see. All right, so they start off Auburn and then at SMU. They could very easily lose both of those games. I don't think that's a wild thing to say. Then they get Samford, and then they get Arizona State at home. That's a huge test. Even if they lose that game, I think they get Oklahoma State, and then I think they get Kansas State at home. They get a bye week. They have back-to-back road spots. I do think they drop that back-to-back, one of those two games at TCU, at Cincinnati, probably that TCU game, but we'll see. They get UCF, then they get that bye week like you talked about. I think they beat Utah. I think they get Arizona, and then they get Houston at home. They should only have like 2 conference losses, maybe 3. They're going to be right there in it, man. And I think Sawyer Robertson's just such an X factor to where he can put the ball in his hands and he's going to make plays. So that's why I was so high on Baylor. But I'll let you talk about the 2 heavy hitters.
Yeah. So I have Arizona State and Kansas State. I'm not going to dive too much in, but like Hunter was saying earlier, I like establishment, and both of these teams have won a Big 12 championship in the past few years. I don't think Arizona misses a beat without Scatterbo. I think they kind of change the way they play offense, and I think they get better, and they're at the top. And Kansas State, the same thing. I didn't want to put Utah in there just yet because of the question and how new they are with the offense, and how bad they were last year. Kansas State and Arizona State, both competitive teams at the top of the Big 12 last year. So that's tier one. I feel like is just not a big list. To me, it's a short list when we're talking about conferences. So that's why I have those 2 as my tier one teams.
Good deal, man. I mean, the main reason I put Utah up there was mainly just coaching. Like I
Yeah.
feel like they're just so proven. It doesn't matter. I know that they've had Cam Rising there for such a long time, but even before that, I mean, they've always just been a team right there. You know what you're getting out of Kyle Whittingham, and that's
Yep.
why I took him and the Utes in Tier One. I'll talk a little bit about Arizona State because I don't touch on them the rest of this episode. So I'll touch on them. I know Tyler has got a little bit more on Arizona State, so we might hold off on him until we get to these next few slides. But man, kind of like we talked about at the beginning of the show, everybody's talking about Arizona State. They're such an established spot now. Scattaboo, Levitt, they put them on the map. Sam Levitt could be in New York at the end of the year. Like we said in our Vibes episode, like that's not a crazy thing to say. It's also not a crazy thing to say that let's just say Arizona State is who they are. They are an established product and they kind of just pull away from all everybody else beating them up. That's not a crazy thing to say. They could go win 9, 10 games with ease. Who's to say that they're not 11-1, and who cares if they lose the conference championship game they're in? I feel like that's not an outlandish thing to say. They are. I love Kenny Dillingham. Like he was put in the worst position known to man with all the Herm Edwards, sanctions, and this team's pretty much getting the closest thing to a death penalty we've ever seen. And he's like, nah, we're out here to win. And he goes and finds a dog, Sam Levitt, and starts him over Rashada, and then gets Cam Scattaboo from Sacramento State, and then finds Jordan. Like finding the hidden gems, that's something that's not talked about enough. I feel like it's like an unsaid talent that people have, and Kenny Dillingham definitely has it. So kudos to him. They are definitely established, and I like them a lot. I think these first 5 games on their schedule, Northern Arizona at Mississippi State, Texas State at Baylor, and TCU, I think they get it done. Now, granted, they could very easily drop at Baylor or at home against TCU. But I think just to start the year off, they're going to start fast, and they get 3 games to kind of get their footing off of them before they hit the road. And whereas I think Baylor, it might take a little bit of time for them to hit that sweet spot, kind of like last year. And then TCU, I'm taking the home team. I'm taking the Sun Devils in that one. That's honestly what it came down to. Then they get a bye week. I don't care. I think I would take the Utah Utes to beat the Philadelphia Eagles at home. Like that. Like that's how strongly I feel about Rice Eccles Stadium. I mean, I'm using a hyperbole there, but like it's so hard to win in that stadium. It's so hard to win at Utah. Texas Tech at home, flip a coin. I think they probably drop that game. They will. I don't know. They will lose at least one of those 2 games. That's the safest way I know how to put it, is that they will lose either at Utah or at home against Texas Tech. I got them losing on the road, got them with a bounce back win. I got them beating Houston at home. At Iowa State's going to be tricky now. That's not some easy feat. That's a Big 12 championship rematch. I mean, that there's one team looking for blood after getting destroyed on national television on Conference Championship Saturday. It's the Cyclones, and you just never know what can happen in Ames, Iowa. Uh, Flip a coin there. I do lean Arizona State. Bye week, they get West Virginia. I think they win. Like I said earlier, that Colorado game, man, something about it just being stuck in between 2 cupcakes. There's just something sus about it. I don't know what it is. I have it in the yellow, and then I think they do beat rival Arizona because I really don't know if Brett Brennan's going to be coaching Arizona at the end of the year. So that's my thoughts on ASU. Does anybody want to hit on K State before we move on? Tyler?
I'll hit on them in just a second.
Okay. Well, moving on. Big 12 Player of the Year. So, for those who don't know how this whole process works, how we get the slides up and everything, the slides are shared with my 2 lovely friends here, Jake and Tyler. And I tell them, hey guys, just go put a name on there and then I'll make it look good. And so I had full intentions to put Sam Levitt on here, but I'm going to be that guy. It just wouldn't have been any fun having 3 Sam Levitts on here. I had this blank when I came here to fill it out earlier, and they both had Sam Levitt, and I was like, well, I'm going to go outside the box, and I picked Devin Dampier. Dampier, Mr. Stinchcomb. I know Jake talked about it a little bit earlier, but this guy rushed for like 1,100 yards last year and had 19 touchdowns on the ground. That's absolutely nuts. He completed just under 60% of his passes. I'd like to see that number go up, but he did throw for dang near 3,000 yards. He finished for he was about a quarter short. 12 touchdowns, but the biggest red flag that I see is the 12 interceptions. He had a 0 ratio for touchdowns and interceptions, and that's just I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. However, New Mexico and Utah are not the same. I just want to get that out there that Utah is a much more established program. They got a lot better defense. He's not going to be having to put the ball in the air as much as he did at New Mexico. But also, he led New Mexico to one of their best seasons in my lifetime, and it wasn't even that good. But they've been so abysmal, and this guy changed it all for them. And the only reason I have him, obviously, I wanted to put Sam Levin on here, thinking outside the box. But the whole touchdown to interception thing, how I talked myself into this, I think DJ Lagway only had like one more touchdown than interception, and everybody's buying in on him. So I was like, what's different about this guy? You know, he has the same touchdown to interception ratio, so I'm going to throw him on here. But when you can run the ball as much as he does, and Utah has the best offensive line returning in the Big 12. That is not verbatim. I think the only other team that you can argue with that is Arizona State. But I love Utah's offensive line. And even if they didn't have a lot of returning production coming back, you just know it's going to be there. It's like Kyle Whittingham, good offensive line, good front seven. You know you're going to get it. Like, you know what product you're buying there. So that's another reason I like it. He was having to run for his life. That's how he picked up some of these yards on the ground. But I think with a solid running back and then with a dual threat quarterback with a great offensive line, and you know you're going to get a solid defense every single year out of Kyle Whittingham, this guy's set up for success. But the thing I like the most about what Kyle Whittingham did this offseason for Utah and why I don't think it's outlandish to say Devin Dampier can win the Big 12 Championship Player of the Year is that he brought the offensive coordinator with him. That's everything. I think we're going to see the same thing out of John Mateer in Oklahoma. Like, you bring the coordinator with the player, you're going to have success. It's just like one of those connections. Like, you go to a new company, you're doing the same thing. You're just doing it at a bigger scale with the same dudes, you know? So that's my biggest thing is, like, I like the fact that we got the coordinator and the quarterback, not just one or the other, because I feel like it's a lot better chance of setting up for success. I'll run through the schedule real fast. Actually, do I talk about them later on before we move on?
Utah?
Yeah, but it's just conference championship player, or it's just a conference title. So I'll go ahead and do this right. Oh. Okay. Yeah, and I'll run through their schedule because I know the next two slides aren't really like, previews for teams, are more of like what our actual predictions are. I'm very high on Utah. We've been talking about it this entire episode. Same thing, like I was talking about with Arizona State. I think their first 5 games are all wins at UCLA, Cal Poly, at Wyoming, Texas Tech at home, and then at West Virginia. A little tough game, but I think they'll be a lot easier team to beat early on in the season. Then you get the bye week. Much needed bye week before this next stretch of 4 you got. I do think they drop either Arizona State or at BYU. It's hard to play an established top tier team in the conference on the road or at home. Even if it's at home, I think it's going to be hard. So I do think have them getting the win, but then having to go on the road to your rival the very next week, I don't like it. And that's one of those games you really just don't know who's going to win. And those two teams hate each other a lot. The Holy War, one of the best names in all of rivalries. I think they get Colorado and Cincinnati at home. I do have them dropping it to Baylor on the road. And then that Kansas State mixture at the bottom. Whew, That's tough. I do think they get Kansas State because it's at home, but they could very easily lose to at Kansas. I mean, Kansas played spoiler to a lot of teams last year. And my original wild card player before I did any of this was Jalen Daniels in Kansas because I feel like that's just a sleeper team that nobody's talking about. But Jalen Daniels is back, and when he's healthy, we saw what the guy can do. But for the sake of this, I'll keep it short. I think they'll get the win, and they'll probably finish around that two losses in conference play. So
Good stuff, Hunt. Yeah, I like Utah a lot too. All those points you made on Dampier and bringing the offense coordinator in, I love that concept. I love the idea of that, and I think I was between him and Sam Levitt. I'll go into mine, and Tyler, you can piggyback off whatever I got. The reason I have Sam Levitt is one, his experience already up to this point. Like he played for a Big 12 championship last year. He played in a lot of big regular season games, and he almost beat the Texas was ranked in the top six. Not maybe not like seeding wise, but they were in the top six, I believe, when they faced off in number three. Okay. So yeah, and was in that game the entire game, made a lot of big plays, not just with his arm, but with his legs too. And I think that's a big thing to his game is how he can use his legs rather than just being able to throw the ball. And I talked about it in the Vibes episode, but this year, the offense, he's going to shoulder more of the offense now that Scatterbo's gone, and having a healthy Jordan Tyson. And Kenny Dillingham's a great quarterback developer. I mean, he coached Bo Nix for 2 or 3 years when Bo Nix was in college. So I have him winning Big 12 or being the Big 12 Player of the Year. I think he's the most established quarterback. I think he's the best quarterback going into the season. So yeah, that's why I have Sam Levitt as my Big 12 Player of the Year. Tyler, you got anything off that?
Yeah, I just want to say that I know we kind of talked about this in the Vibes episode a little bit, but losing Scatterbo, you're going to have to rely on Levitt a lot more than they have in the past, and so if you're going to have to play through him, he's obviously going to put up numbers. I mean, he's a good football player. He's a very good football player. He's a good quarterback. So with them having to play through his arm, I think that it just opens up for him to put up big numbers and be very big for them, and so he's very appealing to be a Player of the Year and in that Heisman conversation.
Dark horse.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, he really is, and I would have picked him if I would not have seen you two already. And that just would have been boring. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I went with my second best option. I think another name on here, Avery Johnson.
Yeah.
Even though, in my personal opinion, I think he kind of is who he is at this point.
I agree.
I think he
How
is.
How long is it going to take?
But who knows? He might unlock something new. I think another popular name being Jalen Daniels. He was the preseason Player of the Year last year. I know Kansas played spoiler at the end, but like if Jalen Daniels or Sawyer Robertson, just one of these quarterbacks could like just click. Somebody could click, or you could get. This is the conference where you could get a scataboop, where you have no idea who the guy is in the preseason. Then you're like, oh yeah, conference player of the year, duh. But always a fun little exercise to do.
Avery Johnson's got Gunnar Stockton syndrome.
I'm not exactly sure what that means.
You can't get down
when you throw piss missiles. Every throw, regardless if it's a check down. If it's a 70-yard bomb, you best believe that bitch is coming in at 90 miles an hour. Both of them do it. And Avery Johnson has done it each year and hadn't stopped doing it. And I doubt he's going to stop doing it this year. And I just don't like the way he delivers the football. But anyways, great runner. Great hair.
Fair enough. So another thing, I had Utah versus Kansas State as my conference title game. That's what I had. And then I went and looked at the odds market, and I saw that they were number 1 and they were number 2. And I'll be damned if I'm taking the number 1 and number 2 from the Big 12. And then I was like, oh, well, Texas Tech and Arizona State. And I was like, and I looked and said, oh, they both got Arizona State. That's too chalky. It's definitely not happening now. I was like, I got to see it out of Texas Tech, so I kind of just landed on Baylor. But I'm so high on Utah this year, I just couldn't leave them out, especially with Dampier and all the potential I think he brings to the table. So I know that's such a BS answer, but, like, it's true. I was like, I can't pick Arizona State. Everybody's picking Arizona State. The top two teams are Kansas State and Utah, and that's who I originally had. But I was like, it's the Big 12. That's not going to happen. So I rolled with Baylor. That's how I landed on Baylor. But it really could be a mixture of any sort of teams.
Yeah.
Bro,
sorry. Because no, you're good. I was like Arizona State. I was for sure on them. I know they're at the top of the odds markets for them to be there. And then I was between Utah and TCU and Kansas State, all finishing 9-3. And I wanted to put TCU, but I took like 30 minutes to deep dive into how those tiebreaker works, and somehow I got Utah, so that's why they're there. But if I had to,
I didn't even look at the tiebreakers.
I did because it was pissing me off. I had 4 teams at 9-3, so I was like, let's see how this works.
I'm gonna send you a website where you don't have to like deep dive into it. You can just pick the predictions like you would on a schedule, and it'll spit out the game for you just for future reference.
Good
just to help you out.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I have Utah and Arizona State kind of chalky, but if I had another choice, another team I'd put up there would be TCU. I think TCU could win the conference. They're plus 900 to win the Big 12. Keep that in mind. Take that as you will. So, yeah, that's who I got my Big 12 top.
I'm going to throw this out there before Tyler goes. If you told me Oklahoma State played Kansas in the Big 12 championship, I'd be like, I mean, that's far-fetched, but like, yeah,
okay.
that's a Big 12 thing to happen. Because it's like, what if everything clicks for Mike Gundy again? What if he just finds another Ollie Gordon and then like Jalen Daniels and Lance Leopold just go off?
Like, what if Jalen Daniels plays 14 football games this year? Never know.
Yeah, exactly. Tyler?
Kind of like what you guys said, really chalky. In my eyes, there's a clear at least top 3, top 4. But I'm really high on Kansas State. Shout out the Wildcats. That's my online dynasty team. We're taking them to a natty soon. And then Arizona State, I think they're going to be pretty much reloaded. I believe, like I said earlier, I believe in Sam Leavitt being good, and they're going to have to put through him. So I just think that this is the way it's going to shape out. I think they have favorable schedules, and I think that they'll be there in the end.
Before we go to you can leave the Big 12 champion up. This has nothing to do with what we were just talking about, kind of. Tyler, do you care to make any comments about Kansas State and the first round exit they made, I think, 2 days ago in our first playoffs in our online dynasty?
Yeah, so college football.
Y'all didn't think to like invite me to play your online dynasty? It's crossplay now.
Well, this one's our like house dynasty, so it's all 4 roommates. So we're like hauling through. We're already through year 1, and Tyler got in the playoff, the Big 12 champ. No, did you win the Big 12?
Yeah.
Yes, and played Nebraska. Another roommate has Nebraska, and first round exit, man. It's not a good look in year 1, but I was just seeing if you had any comment to make.
Yeah, so our coaching staff is really really disappointed with that first round exit. I think that the software developers did not want to have me win that game. Avery Johnson missed a wide open touchdown pass by about 7 yards and threw a pick 6 off of it. So that was
90 miles an hour.
Yeah, threw it right over the guy's head on a crossing route. That was really, really tough. And at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm not winning this game. I think I kneeled out the last minute and 30 seconds because I was just really pissed off at that point. Lost some really good talent in the portal. So year 2, we're looking to reload. Gabe Powers is gone. Austin Romaine's gone. Avery Johnson left. Dylan Edwards left. Lost a lot of production there. So, but we're reloading. I'm not even worried about
it. Jake, what are you?
Virginia Tech.
Solid.
I don't care to comment on what happened to me. I was up 24-10 with 2 minutes and 14 seconds to go, and got talked out of putting on shoe clock, and I lost 25-24. So I've never seen the smoothest onside kick in the world happen. My guys didn't even touch it. It was beautiful on Nebraska's part. But Kyron Jones is back. I hope every single offensive lineman retired and went and worked for an insurance company because they all suck. So yeah, we're gonna rebuild. We're gonna be right back in it.
Yeah, I started out as the OC at one Georgia Southern University, Did pretty well. My first year went 8-4. Then second year as the OC went 11-1. I didn't make the playoff though. Didn't make the playoff. We were not the best G5 team, unfortunately.
How does that happen?
A school called Tulane.
Ah.
Yeah, and so I ended up.
Loves Tulane.
Oh, they love Tulane. I ended up taking the head coaching job at Iowa State. First year we went 8-4. I like to throw the ball, and my quarterback, his arm just didn't agree with it. So found out he had 97 speed though, and we became a run first team. Needless to say, after that, the next year we finished that year going 8-4, 9-3, and we played in the New Mexico Bowl against Appalachian State, and we won. And then the following year, I ended up going 16-2, 15-2. We won the Big 12, won the national championship, and then my two best players left, and I haven't picked up the stick since. Kind of nervous. That was 2 nights ago, so we'll see. But I'm glad the vibes are up with EA Sports 26.
Yeah, they're all the way up.
And now, after that advertisement break, we will get back to our scheduled programming. Podcast 129, Big 12 champion. I picked the Utah Utes over the Baylor Bears. This was simple. I'm all in on the bounce back for Utah. They had such a bad season last year, and they're second best in the odds. Could go wrong. I mean, you never know in the Big 12. It really could. They could win 6-7 games again this year. I do believe in the potential of Dampier. Another year with the OC, with a better defense, a better line of scrimmage, better talent all around him. If he can protect the football, Kyle Whittingham will get back to the Big 12 championship game. Well, I guess he's technically never played in the Big 12 championship game because last year was their first year in the conference, but he will get back to conference title weekend, and this time he'll bring home the Big 12 trophy instead of the Pac-12 trophy. And I think Utah punches their ticket back to the college football playoff. And I will add a second hot take before our hot take segment next. I think Kyle Whittingham will retire after this season.
Ooh. Right off in the sunset as Big 12 champ. I like it. I like that pick, Hunter. I'm high on Utah too, like we talked about. I have Arizona State. I might be a little bit too all the way in on Arizona State, but I'm right there. Back to back. I mean, I think they run it back. I think Kenny Dillingham is just going to keep rising, keep elevating. Same with Sam Levitt, like we talked about. Their defense last year, haven't talked a lot about their defense, but they gave up 22 points a game, quietly enough, and they have 9 starters returning on the defensive side of the football, and I think that is humongous in this conference. So I think they win the Big 12 again. They're right back in the college football playoff and just take another step forward in the right direction under Dillingham. So. Tyler?
Man.
Yeah,
Tyler?
I've got Kansas State. Like I said, I'm very high on them. I think Avery Johnson is poised and ready to go. Dylan Edwards being in the backfield is a great advantage for them. Their defense is solid. It's going to be good enough to win the football games. And like I said earlier, their schedule's good enough to get them to the championship game. And I think that they just will outplay Arizona State. So I've got them moving on to the playoffs.
And I want to go on the record and say if you gave me 3 teams to win the Big 12 championship, this would be the 3. These would be the first 3 teams that I say. And then the next 2, like tier 2, I would say Baylor, Texas Tech. And then kind of the rest of the field, you just never know. But
yeah, I agree with you, Hunt.
And now to our next segment. It's new. We brought it in this year. Hot takes. And these aren't just hot takes. These are hot takes that we would put our money on, that we would actually take out the credit card, walk up to the bookie and say, give me some money on this. I'll let Tyler go first because I also agree with Tyler's Big 12 hot take with the same team, ironically.
Yeah. So like you can read there, or if you're listening, the best team on paper will not win the conference. This is going to be a very unpredictable league this year. But I don't think obviously I have Kansas State winning the conference, but I don't think they're the best team on paper. I would say either Texas Tech or Arizona State would be the better team on paper. If you're just sitting down looking at roster and just reading the names to yourself. But like I said, I think that this conference is unpredictable and it can go any way. And I think Kansas State, as long as they can play the way that I think they will, and that I'm sure that they expect to play, they will win the conference without being the best team on paper.
I like it, Kyle. My hot take is I believe that no team in the conference will have double-digit wins. I don't think there's a lot of win totals set at 9.5, but just a conference that, like we've talked about, I mean, the whole theme is like it's anybody's ball game. I think everybody's going to beat everybody. There's going to be a ton of spoiler teams, and there's going to be a lot of 9-3, 8-4 football teams in the conference. That's going to make things very messy at the end of the season when we're talking about who's going to be playing for the Big 12 title game. So that's my hot take in the Big 12 this year.
Nice. And mine's kind of like the exact opposite direction of that, which I think both of these, that's why they're hot takes. And I could see both of these happening for sure. But I think that this is a two-bid league this year. I don't think they're just getting one in. I think we will see, even though it is unpredictable right now and that we don't know a lot about how these teams are going to shape up, how these schedules are going to take effect on them, I do think that we will see tier one emerge this year. I think we will see like that 3 to 4 team. All right, these are the 3 to 4 teams, and there's just a drop off. Like last year, I remember it was week 12, and there was still like 18 different conference championship game outcomes that could have happened.
Yeah.
I don't foresee that happening this year. And I think that there will be a tier one that pulls away. And so for that reason, I think that I think Utah gets in based off my predictions. So you'll have at least one with the champion, but I think that there will be at least one other team that only loses 2 games this year, whether that be Arizona State, Baylor, Kansas State, Texas Tech. Those are really the only teams that I could see losing only 2 games. Who knows? Maybe there's like a Tennessee situation where Texas Tech goes 10-2 in the regular season, but they lost 2 conference games, and then Arizona State goes 9-3, but they only lost they lost 2 conference games, but they have the head-to-head over Texas Tech. They lose. They finish the year 9-4, but Texas Tech's in there at 10-2 type of thing. I think that's what's going to end up happening. Is that it's going to be very small margins. It won't be like one of those foreseen conclusions where it's like I have no idea. I think it's going to be. I think we'll see at least 2 Big 12 teams playing in January this year.
I like it. That would be cool to see 2 or 3, maybe 4 teams like pull away from the others, and you have some heavy hitters in the Big 12, and like that take us into the next few years. That I would like to see that. But it is fun having everybody in it. That's really cool to see. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Well, that'll do it for the Big 12 preview. Guys, any last little tidbits, notes, anything else? I know it's getting late. We all got to get up and go to work in the morning. We're not on that college schedule anymore. So
I'm good. Good stuff. Excited to keep these coming out. Just inching closer to kickoff a few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So next is we will be talking ACC, correct? Yeah. We're going to be talking some ACC football next week, or the next episode that you guys see. Same format, same categories, everything else. And then, yeah, so we got ACC. After that, we got the Big 10. We'll finish off the SEC, and then we'll do our big win totals and college football playoff preview, guys. So, as always, thank you guys for listening. Don't ever forget, God first, God bless, and I'll let Jake close us out.
Good stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in. Go follow us on our socials. You can also listen to our shows, watch them on YouTube. You can listen to them on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Share our stuff. Tell everybody you know about us. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you guys Back for ACC Talk in a couple of days. That's podcast 129, 2025, episode 2.